Welcome back. Episode 39 of Andrewcast. I'm joined by Sheldon Fogel, Ben Salem resident to a new home now. Congratulations.
All moved in, took 3 days, but we're good.
And he's here. He made it just in time.
Just in time, sorry.
Because we have Chris Nyenpan of BUKTU. You just looked like I called you out or something. No, I mean, you know, I have to pipe you up a little bit, dude, because, you know, you have a vision that you're promoting. You have a product that you're giving to people. You have something that you've been working on for a long time. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting, man. And it's exciting, first off, to just go through the stuff that you have and just, like, see all the new stuff that you got. And also to buy some of that. Like, I bought a shirt I wore on this podcast, and when I wore it, our guest was like, "Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "Bro, you want to know about BUKTU?"
It was a really nice shirt.
Yeah, I talked to you about that one, the one with the mask that's being transfigured on this woman's face. I really like that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you just came back from a trip, and now you're gonna subject yourself to questions and stuff. So I appreciate it, man.
No, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate you.
Where's your trip? Where'd you go?
We went to Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was good. Definitely a lot of driving. Yeah, but it was good.
That's good. What's down in? Was it Fredericksburg?
Fredericksburg, yeah.
Yeah, what's down there?
Yeah, so it was my girlfriend's my grandfriend. It was my girlfriend's grandmom's 74th birthday. So she's Puerto Rican.
Okay.
So she had all of her family come from Puerto Rico, Kentucky, Florida, like all over, you know, to surprise her grandmom, because they don't get to, you know, they don't often get to come together, you know, all in the same location. So it was great to have everybody together.
That's
awesome,
cool, man.
And she just invited me along. So
That's awesome.
On the weekends, do you still have your laptop out and you're monitoring like the shop and all the stuff that you got to take care of, or is that delegated to other people? Also, just come a little bit closer to the mic for me.
Yeah. Okay. I tend to talk really low, so just let me know when you want me to speak up.
Same,
yeah.
man. Same. We're all quiet here.
Yeah. So I try to during the weekend. My computers, I'm always checking. I have the apps on my phone because I like to stay connected at all time.
No, what kind of apps you mean?
The Shopify app. So our website is run on the Shopify platform. So I'll keep it with me. I'll monitor it. You know, see who's on the website right now, how many visits we've had today, tomorrow if I didn't check. You know, yesterday.
Now is that standard for apparel, or is that all types of shops for Shopify? What is that standardly for?
What, the app?
Yeah, does that cover just like apparel shops or pretty much any kind of merchandise?
So it's everything.
Okay.
With Shopify, yeah. So that's just my way of monitoring the whole store. I can edit the website, make discount code, everything straight from the app and everything.
Oh, wow.
So that's like the entire website. How many people are on, how many visits we've had, sales, and things like that.
So you're not hosted by like Squarespace or some other traditional website platform. It's all Shopify.
Yeah, it's all Shopify.
Cool.
Yeah. We did. Before I went with Shopify, I considered Squarespace, but after doing my research, because Shopify is the largest when it comes to e-commerce, Shopify I think is the way to go because they give you everything.
Right.
You know, in-store solution, online solutions, POS system, everything. I know that. I'm sort of a visionary, so I just thought, you know, where do you see yourself 3 years from now? So, you know, that's how I also just zeroed in on Shopify to start building up now.
Well, Squarespace looked appealing to me too, and we had the podcast site on Squarespace because it has that store feature where you can operate a store out of it. But like you said, if more people are using Shopify, then and primarily your site is just for your product.
Yeah.
It's not like you have like any sort of video content yet. I don't know if you have any of that planned, but like just for the shop, that's probably the best way to go. But do you have like any, like, I know you did some modeling videos on Instagram. I saw those actually, and they were really cool.
Yeah.
And I think they were shot on the iPhone 10, right? Because there's a little blur effect going on there that I don't think is present in like the 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a pretty sharp portrait mode that you got going on.
No, that was actually an Instagram feature. So I shot it on my iPhone 8. Yeah. So not the 10, not the X, but on the 8. Yeah, it was it's weird because sometimes it'll show up and sometimes it won't show up. So I'm just like, Instagram, stop messing with me. But it's it was an Instagram feature that we shot out. I wanted to mess around with some of the filter, you know, try to really highlight the shirt, the brand, the individual, you know.
That's cool.
So yeah.
And so you shot all of that yourself. You just kind of went around Philadelphia with some models and hit that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
Just right there.
Yeah, because that's like you know, I one thing I noticed on our social media, we did a great job. At least a lot of people told us we did. We did the first photo shoot. It was an in-studio photo shoot. White backdrop. I wanted to get the clothing, in the clean, crisp, clear manner, which was good. But that doesn't really show you, sort of the culture. The real life essence of the brand. Is an urban brand. I wanted to capture the city, the sidewalks, everything, you know what I mean? So it was exciting to finally be in the streets of Philadelphia taking live photo shoots. So, I wanted to sort of capture that with the Instagram feature.
And we have a lot of photography centered inputs on this podcast historically. Sheldon's really into that.
Cinematography, photography as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I love colors and stuff like that, and I liked how you implemented your models with like the background, and it gives a nice like contrast and stuff like that, and it's really someone like a consumer wise, it's really a pleasing to see like that, and it highlights your product.
Yeah,
which looks great.
Yeah, definitely.
And on the store, in the store website, you have the classic kind of catalog photos where it's everyone up against like a white background, so it just focuses in right on the clothes.
Yeah, definitely. Because I saw a lot of stores.
They do that. It's like the exact same thing.
Because you want it to look like you want people. When they're on the website, it's just solely on the product. Like I want you to see, without all the background noise, I want you to see how the product looks on this person. So when we're doing website or shoots for the website, it's all plain background because the focus is just on the product then.
And I think all white is the way to go for apparel sites nowadays. Like Jack Threads, like there's some cool material. So many websites have just like that all white thing. I feel like it's all about minimalism presentation because of the iPhone generation. And it has to be like just super glossy clean.
And what some are doing now is that they'll take the product, they'll take a picture of the product like with the model against the sky. So the photographer will get low and shoot on an angle so that, the model is like shown with the sky as the backdrop. So, you can either have really nice blue or a light blue, something like an overcast day where it's just white or like, dark and color. It depends on what the clothes were. And it also gives a perfect contrast just as the white wall. Right. That's one thing I did notice that is starting to happen. I don't know if you know who he is. His name's PewDiePie. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, familiar.
So him and his girlfriend created their own like clothing brand, and that's how they do their pictures. And it's just like it's like different because they're the first ones I saw do it. And I was like, oh wow, they're doing it different backdrop. Like I didn't think it would work, but then when I saw a couple, I was like, And then you see some people, do it on the like show their street wear on the street. But I think I like the more traditional or the sky compared to like the clothes actually on the street, because sometimes the lighting will mess up the colors and it won't look necessarily right. So
he's a video gaming YouTuber. He does like let's plays and stuff like that.
Now he does like social commentary, which is like
PewDiePie.
Really funny.
Well, it's because he has that audience. Like if you had an audience of millions,
65 million.
Right. So then you kind of have an obligation to use that you have responsibility to have content that's not just gaming all the time. You have a platform to say whatever you want.
He uploaded his first gaming video this week, first time in like maybe 5 months.
Really?
Like an actual gaming.
See, I'm not a fan of PewDiePie, but I respect the hustle.
I love the guy.
I just don't get the humor. Like it's just a bunch of screaming.
He doesn't do it anymore.
No.
So now he's very like like criticism humor. So like if someone does something, like he got a lot of like shit over the weekend because he put up a meme. He calls them he calls them deep fried meme of the whole Demi Lovato thing going on.
Is this the Avengers one?
Okay. So it was a picture. It's so messed up, and I don't like
condone.
I don't condone making fun of people at the low, but when it is funny. It was a picture of Demi, and it says, "Hey mom, can I get money to like go to Disney or something like that?" She said, "What about Disney? Like you finished Disney Walker?" She's like, "Oh, I don't know, just like go back." She's like, "Sure." And then she was like buys heroin like a boss, and I was like, that is flagrant.
Yeah, man.
And he put it up and he apologized for it, but I'm like, was like, it was funny, but it is not funny at the same time.
Comedy's about timing, right?
It's all about timing.
It's too soon.
All about timing.
It's too soon.
And he's, in England now. He was in Sweden, now he's in England. So news might be a little different over there. Might get it a little later. Whatever. But
also, I feel like European audiences aren't as sensitive as American audiences when it comes to stuff like that. So
yeah, man, it's just the climate in like America since I don't even want to say since Trump got in, but maybe before. Like there's just the division in like, dude, comedy, like when we grew up, comedy, like the Dave Chappelle's, the Dave Attell's, like comedy was just in your face, like
they weren't afraid
rude.
to take
it was rude,
right?
Yeah,
they weren't afraid to take chances.
Yeah,
because when you take chances, that's when you actually might find something that's like funny, but in a way that lasts forever.
Yeah,
because you took that chance.
And this is gonna segue into a question for you. It's like, as a person who's creative. In this current time that we have, do you feel like you have to suppress your creativity a little bit because you feel like you have to like tiptoe? You don't want to offend someone if like your clothing, if it's a certain way, or like your social media presence. Like, do you feel like you have to tiptoe sometimes and like really think about what you post out there?
I think I'd say, I mean, the simplest answer to that would be yes. We definitely do. While you were talking about that, I actually had a flashback. I was actually having the discussion with one of the new shirt that we put on the website. We definitely had to change the graphic of the shirt, because I think overall you never want to, I mean, our intent, especially as a brand, is never to offend anybody. Like I was telling Andrew, when we create all of our products, it's something that I want everyone to feel comfortable wearing.
Just a little bit closer to the mic, man.
Yeah,
sorry, because you keep turning.
I
don't mean to be on
you can even move it too.
I can move along with me.
That's
okay.
it,
yeah, it's something that I want everybody to feel comfortable wearing. So it's definitely not something that I want to do and offend somebody. But the specific incident I was thinking of, which to sort of answer your question in a long-winded way, Udochi's our chief design officer. He's the artist.
Okay.
So he designed this one artwork that was based off of Buddhism. Yeah. I'm not too familiar with that, but
Buddhism,
it was obviously like a Buddhist sentiment type of piece that he did. And he did the artwork, and which is kind of helps to have Sarah, so to have a woman's perspective on there, because as guys are like, oh yeah, put fire on that, put some explosion on this,
just have the Buddha with chains,
make it look badass.
Exactly, make it look. And she's just like, listen, get rid of this, move this color. It's illegal to put those two colors together, and then just sort of like keep us sort of clear. But she brought up the sort of point. She's like, if we're sort of like this Afro centric brand who draws his inspiration from African art and inspiration, and we're trying to take something that's of another, not just of another culture, but a religious thing in that fact. I just don't think that'll be a good idea, because we don't want to offend anybody, which I think it's okay, because we wouldn't want to offend anybody, and we ended up just replacing that piece with another. It was pretty much like a head of a statue, a Buddha statue, and we replaced it with another sort of bust of this African piece that was done. I think it's in the museum in London. I don't know the exact name, which is why I would have loved to have Udochi on here. But we just replaced it with that, the same coloring and everything, and it still looked just as nice.
Right.
But I definitely, to answer your question, I definitely do think we definitely dodged the bullet on that one. I mean, we're not sure. People may have saw it and was like, "Hey, that's a great piece. We love the work." But at the same time, I think it was, we did tiptoe over that one. Like, hey, we don't want to offend anybody. We think it would be better to do this than to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, brand consistency, right? So
exactly.
Buddha is an Eastern philosophy, whereas when it comes to African culture, like Buddhism is not really present in that, so it would kind of stick out from the rest of your collection. So also you have a brand consistency when you made that choice, which I think is wise. But also leads me to my next question, because I'm sure the name of the clothing line relates to the culture and the message that you guys are trying to send out. So if you could just explain like BUKTU, like what is BUKTU, why BUKTU is my question.
Yeah, definitely. So I've always had this fascination. I was talking to Andrew a while back. I've always had this fascination with the story of Mansa Musa, the Malian, king, richest guy in the world, richest African ever lived, whatever you want to call him. And when I was doing this,
real quick, just for people who don't know, where does that story come from? Where does that originate? Like, is that in a book of philosophy, or like
Mansa Musa?
A book of Proverbs? Like, what is?
So don't quote me on anything that I'm about to say on here, but but Mansa Musa was he was a Malian king. Who
But
from
the story itself, was it recorded, or is it just like something that's witnessed by history?
Yeah, it's just something that was witnessed by history. Just doing my research. I don't know how I came across the story.
Okay,
I think actually I came across the story in like middle school. Somebody was like, "Hey, the richest man who ever lived was African." I think it was we're most likely talking about racism or something like that, and it was just like, hey, they don't talk about this part of African history, this
Never
part,
do.
and that's how I got hooked on Mansa Musa, and I did my research on him a little bit, to find out who he was, where he was from, a Malian king, Timbuktu, and things like that, which also ties into the name. So Timbuktu, was a famous, you always hear the word like some parents might say, "I'll knock you from here to Timbuktu."
Yeah.
And it's like, in a way, people actually don't. I think I'm guilty of this. I never really thought it was an actual place. I just thought it was just something that somebody
Someone
made
said
up. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap, it's a real place in in Mali. So it was like this ancient hub. It was a place of commerce. Trade. People coming from all over the world. Would go pass through Timbuktu to trade and things like that. And it sort of ties into that marketplace concept. When I was originally thinking of BUKTU, I wanted it to be a marketplace where people go and exchange, similar sort of like novelty items, like young people are developing, because we're in a time now where back in the day, I remember I wouldn't be caught dead in a dashiki. My mom would try, to get me an African garment. I'm just like, no, all the kids are going to make fun of me.
Yeah.
Just because you'd be so different wearing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also, there was such a different climate, like when we were younger, being black in America and being like black in America, African in America, and also like, I don't want to say African American, because even though black and African American is like the same thing, there are people who say, no, I'm just black. And then you have people who have African parents born here and they're American, but they're more African American. Right. And then you have people who just completely were born in Africa and relocate here, who consider themselves African in America.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, because I remember, there was like a joke, like, when we were growing up. So go remember African booty scratcher?
Oh my god, it's always that.
What is that? I honestly don't know what that is.
I forget how it was used, but I remember hearing it so much when we were younger. I don't remember how it was like you use African booty scratcher. I don't know.
Sounds like it's from like a cartoon or something.
No, it was from, I think it was Boys in the Hood, or it was from one of those movies from back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah,
because you know how like Boys in the Hood or even Friday, when they would have like that one African person in like the movie, and
was
they
it
would
Michael
just,
Blackson?
Michael Blackson, he was in
he's in
Friday,
movie I'm
right?
thinking of.
Was he in Friday?
He's in. I
He's
think it's called
Repo.
I think it's Repo.
But I don't think that joke came from
funny,
Repo, because they would say, "Oh no, get back to Africa." Because like growing up, there was like a distinction. There was like a difference between African and black, and so like blacks would clown Africans and Africans would clown blacks, but now it's like
I was thinking about
it's such a different climate now, where it's like it's amazing. It's like now it's just all coming together.
Yeah,
and like it's not divisive within the black community, because at the end of the day we're all black.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, that I was just thinking about that like last week, and I forget how it got triggered, but it's like relating to what you said, like dashiki back then. Like, we wouldn't wear them because you get made fun of. Yeah. But now, if you wear a dashiki, it's like, oh, shit, that is dope.
Yeah.
Like, that sure is dope. When I was in Germany a couple weeks ago, there was an Afro store. And they had dashikis, and you can get, like, your hair braided in there. And I'm like, this is in Germany. How come we don't see that much here? Like, it's just I don't know. It's just cultural difference.
Yeah.
You'll see, like, an African store, like, in the Chamonix Mall, but it's all, like, statues of elephants and
like, and it's like
giraffes and stuff.
It's like so stereotypical. It's funny, and it is what it is, but I don't know, it's just such a different time now.
Now, so many of African kids of my generation were scarred off of that It's so funny because I remember when it used to happen to me when I first came.
Where's your family from?
My family's originally from like Monrovia, West Africa.
Okay.
So we relocated to Lawndale, Northeast Philadelphia. And I remember when we first came here, I always thought it was just so odd because the people who looked the most like me weren't the ones, the Black Americans weren't the ones because in my neighborhood, I was all my friends were, I grew up in the, predominantly white neighborhood. I was the only Black African kid. So it's one thing I was like foreign. I already had an accent. And then, growing up with my friends, I hate when people say, you talk white. I hate that concept. I hate when people say that.
I feel that, man.
So it's like all my life, I always went, all of my friends, my Caucasian friends or other.
You don't talk Black.
Friends. I know.
It's like, how do you talk Black?
How do you,
I never understood that.
Yeah.
I never understood that.
No, I never understood that concept.
And it's like, people don't realize that how you speak and how you hold yourself is a reflection of your environment. Yeah. So if everyone talks the same, you naturally will talk the same as everyone, and then it's like,
right.
But you don't talk like how you should. And it's like, how should I talk?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that person just tipped their hand because their perception is a stereotype because they look at you and they're like, you don't sound how you look, and it's like, really?
Exactly.
Like that's how deep you think, though?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
No, it was wild, and a lot of it was sort of interesting to hear. When I went to Temple, meeting all these Africans from like all over the country.
Dude, and just to interject, keep that thought. Temple's like one of the most diverse schools ever, dude. Like it's like United Nations, dude. It's nuts.
It's
there's
amazing.
all sorts of people there.
Yeah.
But continue.
Everything. Yeah, definitely. And it's like they all had this same experience. But, sort of to go back on that story, it's I remember all of my white friends were like, oh, bro, this pattern, my mom would bring out the dashiki, my best friend back then, his name was Dylan. And he would just like be in my house eating African food. Like he couldn't get enough. My family loved this kid. He was like this white unicorn, just like in my house, just like everything. And they just love him. And his family sort of like adopted me and we're so close. And it's like I would go to school and like meet these kids, who weren't from my community, my neighborhood, and just like, why do you talk like that? African booty scratcher. Why is your skin so dark? Like, what? And I'm just like, it just always. I just could never.
And I tell this to Drew. Those are the type of people who will be in that community when they were born, when their kids are born, and when their grandchildren are born. They will forever be in that community, and they'll never step foot or travel or see the world. Because people who see the world don't have that boxed mentality.
No,
they never do.
No.
If you're experienced, because I bet your friend who, like, pretty much was raised with you, had your family's like heritage and food like in his face. He probably has such a respect to like people that are different than him now, and some people refuse to be as open and accepting as him. So it's people like that in the world that can really change, especially when they're white people too. Like that helps when white people are accepting and just open to different things. Because I forget who I was talking to, but I said like and I hate to put race into it, but like white people historically are like the gatekeepers in America. Like my professor, who was this white guy, he's like a Jewish white guy from Buffalo, and he had like such a Canadian accent. It was weird. He said, who are the 5 people? He's like, what is the 5 words of people that run America? And everyone's like, what? And he says, rich, old, fat, white men. And we're like,
wow.
Like, oh. Then
fat though, fat and old though,
because he said those are the people in power.
You can't forget the fat.
You can't forget the fat part. Because
he sounds like he's villainizing a little bit though, right?
He is villainizing, and he's a white guy, which is so funny. Because like,
well, there's a lot of self-loathing white guys in 2000.
He's like, I'm not a part of it. I'm not fat.
Yeah,
so
right. No, because he was a little chubby, but which is funny. But like, and so when someone was like, what? They're like, what? What do you mean by that? And he's like, think of all the people in like power, and historically, like you had the Caesars and like the Napoleons and like the people who create policies in America.
Yeah.
And they're all like tend to be 70 to 80 some years old, big belly, like suits not fitting anymore, but they're still rocking it out. White guys. And I don't know, just that observation that he said was like, it was just funny.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just went on another rant.
No, you're cool, man.
Dude, it's like every conversation we're having right now, I like had at some point this week, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
I'm like repeating myself. But yeah.
Basically, you felt like a fish out of water until you went to Temple, and you're like, whoa, I'm around these cool African people. This is awesome.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's good to certain. I mean, it's not good for us to have that same shared sort of trauma that we all went through, because it was really rough, because you just could not. And Africans, family in general, tend to be more conservative. So oftentimes you hear like a lot of African sort of families. Like I remember when my family first came over from Africa, my grandma was just like, I mean, it was kind of bad. We had to tell this stuff, and she's like, don't have black friends. They're not good. I'm just like, what?
Really?
Grandma, what are you talking about?
That's interesting.
Like, you can't say stuff like that.
That's
and Africans are really conservative, and it's just we share sort of like, you know, obviously the optics, the same optics. You know, you can't. It's not like somebody can see me walking down the street. It's like, that guy's obviously not black. He's African. You know what I mean? But culturally, it's really different. Like, that's just the culture, you know, the shared values and things like that is really different. Not to say that Africans and black people, you know, there aren't similarities that we have. Not, you know, this is definitely not a generalization. Like, I've met plenty of, you know, my black brothers and sisters who, you know, share similar values, and we get along just fine.
Yeah.
But I think just to tie it back in, it's just back in the day, the concept then was like, you know, you're African, I'm not African. Being African, you know, you're poor, you're this and that, and it was just always over my head. Because it's one of those things too where it's like a completely different life. Because I remember when my family was still in Africa, you know, my family was very, you know, involved in, you know.
And you are first generation. Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, first generation.
Did your parents come over?
Yeah, my parents came over. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My grandfather actually, I didn't even know this until I was talking to him the other day. He actually taught at the University of San Francisco.
Impressive.
So
Wow.
he's been going back and forth. He was actually, when we were back home in Africa, he was a superintendent for like the education system. So he pretty much ran the entire education system in Monrovia.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, during the time of the Civil War, they were actually going after children of like politicians and this and that, which is one of the reasons why my family had to leave, you know. So that whole sort of like poor, I've never really thought of myself as poor when I was in Africa, because it's not like we're living in trees, you know. We never had we had plenty of land. Like, my upbringing was sort of like on that standard, was like one of privilege. So to come here and just sort of seeing this different concept, like, you know, you guys are poor, you're dirty, you're African booty scratcher and this and that, it's just all rushing at you at once. I'm just like, I thought we would be friends, you know.
Yeah, especially when you're young, that was probably a lot to take in.
It was.
Now that you're an adult, you have a perspective on how people are different. A lot of them are misguided. But when you're a kid, you probably felt like everything was against you at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah. No, you definitely do. But I think I really thank my parents and family for really sort of keeping you grounded. Like, you know, you come from a heritage and a culture that you really should appreciate, and don't let other people sort of shine this, you know, fake, you know, fictitious, not true light on your story and who you are. So
That's cool.
It really, so it really kept us all grounded, and now we can just laugh about it. All our friends, African booty scratcher,
right?
You know, but back in the day,
that's rough, man.
Life.
When you're a kid, to have that label on you, right?
Yeah.
Because the social circle of a child is very sensitive. You know, when somebody's called a name, that name sticks.
Yeah.
And it's hard to wash that off.
Yeah.
So, and it can really leave you to be bitter. But it's crazy that from what I'm hearing from you, Chris, you grew from that experience, and now not only are you proud of your culture, but you're a proprietor of your culture with your brand, which is sick. Like, that's super dope that you came out of that just like holding a sword almost, and that's kind of what your brand is.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I can say that I honestly do love the whole movement that's going on, which sort of ties back into the brand and, you know, the whole BUKTU thing, and how, you know, the concept has changed. So now we went from sort of like, I don't want to be African, like, you know, that's, you know, they're this or that, and now it's like everybody wants to be, you know, wants a piece of Africa. You know, the clothing, the food, you know, there's a lot of African restaurant, like a Liberian restaurant. Yeah, a Liberian restaurant just
up.
opened up not that far from my house, and I'm just like, I've been waiting for this to come here like all my life,
your whole life,
and I'm just like, I'm gonna come here like every day and eat, you know, your fufu and all of this.
Support, man.
Jollof.
Your jollof rice,
fried jollof. I know about a lot of this stuff. Again, like I said, because I grew up with a lot of friends in the African culture based on the church that I went to. But I'm also a big fan of I Am Dulo. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him. He's an Instagram comedian that's African.
Oh, I Am Dulo, yeah.
Yeah, and he makes like comparisons between like African culture and black culture and white culture, and he's so funny, man. I'm addicted to his videos. He needs a full-time show, to be honest. He needs like a prime time sitcom. That's what he needs. But okay, so you go to Temple, you meet a lot of people who are like-minded. Is that where you start conceptualizing your brand? Excuse me. Yeah. Or was it something that was building since middle school when you heard this story?
No, so I think BUKTU is definitely something that came to me later on when I was at Temple.
Okay.
Temple, as I'm pretty.
I didn't go to Temple. I went to Gwen and Mercy. So I went to a very. Not diverse school. So it was it's in North Wales, Montgomery County.
Ooh.
Private school, Catholic school. I went there to play soccer. So I'm sure as I'm saying all these things, you can paint the picture of what kind of school I went to.
Yeah.
But I went to Temple. I visited Temple a lot. So I was there, you know, for the 4 years in college. I was going back and forth because he lived there. We have multiple mutual friends who live there, and so I was down there a lot, and I've seen the scene.
Yeah. So no, exactly. When you're on Temple, you have just like this rush of diversity, and it's like everybody's doing something. Like everybody's doing, like there's rarely any students you would meet who, you know, doesn't have this brand, who's an artist, who's a musician, who's like everybody.
I was talking about this with Shad when he was on. As Temple students, it's almost like your classes are on the side. Yeah. Like classes are just a side gig for you. Like everyone has like a main hustle that they're pursuing outside of class.
I honestly think that's like the smartest way to think in college.
Yeah.
Like your class should be designed to college is made to network. Yes. Just meet people, because there'll be a point in time in your life where you're like, oh, I know someone that could help me with this. I know someone that could help me with that. So I think that's what college is like. If you can strive with networking, dude, you can like go far in life.
Yeah.
To me.
So that's where you were. What happened?
Yeah, and that's where it was. So everybody was doing something. So I was trying to think of an opportunity, you know, to create a business, you know, targeted towards my community, like, you know, the African community. But I always wanted it to be something that's inclusive. So finding a way to sort of appreciate African fashion and things like that. So when BUKTU first came to me, in fact, I think when I first began, I wanted to call it Busu, not BUKTU. I was just, I wanted something that would sound
You actually might have got copyrighted from that.
Busu?
Yeah, because Busu is actually a language site that teaches like different languages.
Wait, BUSU?
BUSUU.
That's
this
how
one was BUSU.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was be unique, style unique, I think was what I was going for. So everything that we're doing, like I wanted every single thing that we do to have a meaning. Yeah. Because I feel like
so that one's a straightforward acronym.
Yeah, exactly. And then BUKTU just came to me and I was thinking, I think I was looking at not URLs, but when you're getting your domain names, and it's like everything was taken.
I hate that. And you gotta start adding the in front of it. It's like the BUKTU or like
underscore.
And I didn't want to underscore on the website name. I just felt like, are you trying to not have anybody
right? Exactly. I was gonna put underscore in the URL.
Asterisk.
Yeah.
You lucked out with Instagram though.
Yeah.
You just got BUKTU right. It's just BUKTU clean. That's it, right? Nothing added to it.
No, it's actually BUKTU Co. So,
co.
So BUKTU.co is our website. I wanted to add the co, make it a little different, something that's unique, that sticks with people.
I like that.
Yeah, so on the Instagram, Twitter is all BUKTU Co. So I was at Temple. I originally wanted to be a marketplace platform where people, you know, who were designing sort of like this hybrid of, for example, if you live in the UK, sort of like UK fashion mixed with African print or African influence. If you're in Germany, if you're in India, China, the US. So it's sort of like this hybrid. I wanted it to highlight sort of the new culture in in these major urban hubs that these young people are like doing, because I'm on Instagram and it's like these designers, these people are making great things, with the hats, the shirts, and it all looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I want to have this centralized location where everybody can find things like that. So originally,
That's dope.
yeah. So originally it was supposed to be a marketplace business. I did all my research. I found it.
And who was in on you with this originally?
It was just me.
It was just you.
It was just me.
beginning.
Yeah,
Just
it
you
was
at the
just
start.
me. Yeah, and I'm always one. I always like to put my best foot forward. I do tons of research before I act on anything. I want to make sure that it makes sense.
Yeah.
And is well executed. So I found the platform to do the BUKTU, creating it and everything, but I just felt like I didn't have that much control over it, because if you're doing a marketplace, you have to find a way to find the supply and the demand, and it was just too much going on. And you have the Etsy, who also has sort of like a lot of these brands are already on there anyway. You have Amazon, eBay, and I'm just like, okay, am I technically competing with them? Why would anybody want to sell on my platform? And then the thing that sort of like knocked me out the waters was this lady, I can't remember her name, but she came out with Zuva. So Zuva is exactly that. It's this platform for these African designers who design, these clothing. So Zuva.com.
That's specifically for apparel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zuva.
So she sort of beat me to it, and she was like doing amazing. She was on BET,
Whoa.
getting
Oh, wow.
tons of press. Oh yeah, it's big now. Like this is probably, you're talking about, this marketplace is probably doing north of like $500,000, if not even more by now. It was huge.
That's impressive.
It's huge. Yeah.
That's
No,
cool.
it was big. And she beat me to it. I'm like, well, there's there's that. But I still saw the clothing that she had on there. A lot of these designers go for sort of like the adult crowd, so they make sort of like you won't see many T-shirts. It's all like blazers or gowns and things like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tie this into like the younger millennial population and things like that. So then I was like, why don't I just start a clothing brand? Why don't I just do it myself with graphic tees? A T-shirt line. It originally wasn't going to be graphic tees. I was gonna do a whole brand BUKTU, but then I was like,
Oh, just like the logo and
just
stuff?
the logo.
Oh, okay.
But then I was like, everybody owns a brand nowadays.
I was gonna say that's like the number one thing when people's like, I got a clothing line, and it's just
Yeah.
like different logos, shirt logos.
Yeah,
That's it.
And I'm just like, this doesn't like. Where's the value? Where's the originality? It's just a shirt with a text. You know what I mean? I wanted something that people can connect with. I wanted to make sense. And then I was like, I need to draw some graphics. And then I'm just like, okay, well, I can't draw. I'm not really necessarily a creative.
Did you attempt though? Did you have like really crude layouts of what you wanted to make?
I did. I literally, the first sort of logo that I did, I went on Microsoft Word, and you know how you have like you can go to like shapes, and then you have like the different shapes. I just took like the bars, and I just like put them together, made like this
used the line tool?
Tool to just do this weird thing. I just like, no, this is not going to work. I'm not going to become a millionaire using stick figures.
This is a moment where you move back in your chair and you look at the screen. You're like, I need to collaborate with somebody.
I need to collab. Exactly.
I can't do this alone.
Exactly. So I was like, I need to find somebody. And I had met Udochi, the artist, previously, because I used to be the vice president of SEAL on campus.
And what is that?
It's a Society of Emerging African Leaders.
Awesome.
So we did
Society of Emerging African Leaders.
yeah,
Okay.
we did a lot of work around, highlighting leadership opportunities. Like, how can we as young people improve the continent?
I've heard that student org. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, they used to call us the African librarians, because you have OAS as like the fun party fashion shows, and we're just like, let's talk about economics.
Really? I do remember those fashion shows too. They were like at the student center and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah.
I walked through a few of them as an RA. I had people that would go, and I'd accompany them, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
To see that.
Yeah, so you had them. So I met Udochi because I recruited him during the year that we're switching the e-board. I was recruiting more people to join the e-board, and I met Udochi. He was really enthusiastic. He was creative. He was a really cool guy. But I forgot that he drew, that he draws. So I think I was just flipping through my feed on Instagram one day, and I saw his artwork. I'm just like, wow. I clicked his Instagram. I'm like, wow, his art is amazing.
What was the first picture you saw? Do you remember?
what was the first picture that I saw of Dochi? I
It's
don't
cool
remember.
if you don't.
Yeah, I don't remember. He has a lot of artwork. He has a lot.
And he also went to Temple?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah. And I saw it. I was just like, I have to reach out to him. So I reached out to Udochi. You know, I scheduled a meeting for us in the tech center that we have on campus. And I sat him down. I was like, hey, you know, I'm trying to do this clothing brand. But I need like an artist. He's like, let me just stop you right there. I've been trying to do this. But you know, the know-how, the business side of things and this and that. I was like, I don't have to give you this whole spiel.
Yeah, because you didn't have to try and sell him. He was already sold. He was
sold.
like, I'm trying to do this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I told him, I told him the name, the BUKTU, the concept, you know, Timbuktu. He's like, dude, I already see where this is going. Listen, how can I, you know, come on board and how can I join and everything like that? And that's just how, you know, we just scheduled another meeting one day.
Yeah.
And, you know, he brought a ton of his art. He showed me like a list of all arts that he previously drew. A few concept I gave him. I was like, you know, I'm thinking something, think Sahara Desert and this and that. And he drew it. And then, you know, we just met in the tech center, opened up Adobe Illustrator. Hey, put this text here, you know, do this, you know, shape this color. And then we just started just, you know, putting out these graphics.
That's
and then
awesome.
it sort of just grew from there.
And then you started amassing more people just from the acquisition of that business partner. You guys start adding more people to your team. And where are you sitting at now as far as people?
So right now it's actually only 3 people. So
Okay.
it's me, Udochi, and Sarah Diamande. So I wanted us to have a girl, like a female sort of perspective, a black female perspective on it. Yeah. I wanted somebody who's stylish, somebody, you know, who's well versed. We sort of like the young scene. So Sarah, like she has like that eye, that marketing eye. She was a journalism major at Temple. Yeah, but she's really bright.
Cool.
So
now just a dynamic team of 3.
Yeah.
You got the website.
Yeah.
Things are going pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's great. It's great working with both of them. Like they're both just, you know, great enthusiastic people. Sometimes we, you know, will be at team meetings because we meet like every week. We're talking about concepts, and then we'll just go off on like how we want to save the world and save Africa and this and that. And there's okay, guys, okay, let's get back to the artwork.
So you all 3 of you have something you romanticize about.
Yes.
So obviously that leads to you guys thinking about the future and what you want to accomplish. What is your ultimate goal for all of this? Is it more than clothing? Where exactly do you guys want to be?
It is. So if you ask me, let's say if someone told me, or let's say BUKTU becomes like, you know, this multi-million-dollar company in like, you know, by next year. I think for me, where I want it to be, the sort of closest store that I can compare it to would be like a Afro-centric version of Urban Outfitters. So what we want to do with BUKTU, or sort of like our tagline, is highlighting Afro-Urban culture, meaning sort of highlighting out of all the major urban centers, you know what, and it is not just limited to the United States. So it can be the UK, it can be Asia, anywhere. How has sort of African culture and sort of like the local urban culture sort of merge, and what are they doing to sort of like sort of create this subculture, if you will. I feel like I'm making it a little bit too complex.
It's a movement. You're talking about making a movement.
Yeah, capturing that movement, like we were both just talking about, right? Like, you know, the African culture, how it's popularized now, but tying it in with like our generation and what we're doing with it.
Right.
What does it mean to be sort of Black African, sort of like in Philadelphia?
Right.
You know, what are you guys doing? You know, where are you going for poetry? You know what I mean? What type of fashion are you guys into? You know what I mean? And I noticed a lot of the young Black people in our generation, like, we're really expressive. It's all millennials. We want brands that reflect who we are. Yep. So I want to capture that because there's not that many brands out there. You know what I mean? That's doing like, you know, this graphic tees, things like that with, you know, with at least with the artwork that we're using and how we're approaching it.
It's funny because I notice a parallel now when you tell your story from what you're trying to accomplish now and who you were as a young kid when you were experiencing that alienation. It's almost like you are making something for that kid that was like, I wish I had someone or a brand or something that I could relate to show me my identity in all of this. So it's like you experienced the need growing up and now you're fulfilling it with this vision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. No, yeah, because in a way it is like that, but we're also trying to tie it in. Like I wanted to be inclusive. Mm-hmm. So if you were that, that black kid who was making fun of me for being African, I wanted you to say, hey, this is a cool concept. You're a part of this culture now. You, Andrew, as an Italian American, you're also a part of this culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a guy that come to mind. His name is Mr. Whiskers on Instagram. He makes beats for local rappers in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And he's a part of that culture. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's just like that black Afro, and I don't like to say black, I like to say Afro urban culture, because you could be Afro Latino, you could be Afro Asian, Afro German, you know what I mean?
Cool.
Everything.
Yeah.
Those subcultures, I want to highlight that. So it's what we're trying to do with the brand.
That's the move.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Like that's just like mad dope.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that happen anymore,
No.
Like, so yeah, that's just sick.
Yeah, and I think when you sort of tie it back with your question, because I was actually having this daydream not that long ago, when I think of sort of like a BUKTU store, how I would like to create it. If we had $1 million, I wanted to be sort of like this concept. When you walk in it, you just see sort of like this Afro-futuristic type of feel to it. Gold, with a mixture of like ancient African culture, like just something different. Mm-hmm. Right. Like we live in the time where you can see, like, think of something, the concept I always tie it into is like, think of like a plaid sort of shirt, right? Yeah. Everybody, it's just a plaid shirt. Everybody has a plaid shirt, but you don't sort of like tie it back to sort of like the
Zimbabwe.
No, not the Zimbabwe. The
is that a Scottish thing?
Scotland. Yeah, Scotland. Yeah, you were talking about that.
I thought you were gonna refer to the zigzags.
No, sort of like the square.
You're talking about bagpipes and kilts.
Yeah,
where that originated from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't tie it into that, right? So it's sort of like we have like this Eurocentric sort of influence, but it's just it's just a plaid shirt.
Not only that, but I feel like Asian influence has been more easily integrated. You see a lot of people that have kanji tattoos that they probably don't even know what the meanings are. Also, sushi is so popular here, and like there's a lot of Japanese and Chinese aesthetic that's everywhere. That's like been integrated more successfully. Like you don't even think when you're wearing a shirt with like a Japanese design on it, the cultural significance of that.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't see sort of that same perspective playing out in like with African culture though.
Exactly.
Not as much, right? There's no sort of like.
I think it's starting, like you said earlier.
Exactly.
I think it's starting, and I don't want to say
Black Panther, man.
I don't want to say Black Panther's the cause of it.
I knew you were going there.
That's the thing. I don't want to give the credit to Black Panther, even though it does help. But you could see the transition over time, and I feel like it might have happened before Black Panther, like because when he first was introduced, that was Civil War 2016, right? So I think it might have been a little bit before. With when did oh my God, what song was it? Songs also help it too. So Shape of You by Ed Sheeran, that had a Ghanaian choir on it, and it was like the artist who made it, I forget his name, and I hate when I forget like names like that. He was from Ghana, and he made the beat. And then you have Drake with the West Indie Caribbean fusion sounds that are also taken straight from like Nigeria a little bit with the certain drums and stuff like that. So I feel like it was starting a little bit before Black Panther, but like the movie's definitely helping it ascend. And like when I went back to Germany, I saw like Germans, like white Germans wearing dashikis too. Yeah. And it's like it's just amazing because I think it's starting. Yeah. And when these restaurants start really popping off and the people start having like, it's like, oh, that food was spicy, but this is spicy. Yeah. And stuff like that. And, it just, that palate. Yeah. People get to have a different palate. And like you said, like, we were talking about this before, like anime. Anime now it's everywhere.
Yes.
Like, whereas 10, 15 years ago, people were like, Dragon Ball Z, you weirdo. Naruto. Oh, you run down the hallway with the arms behind your back. You weirdo.
Okay, those kids are weird though.
Yeah, but now
you do that, you're kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean that is
that's real. That one.
No, that one's justified. That one is justified. But you know what I'm saying?
Sheldon, were you that kid, bro?
Nah.
Let's be honest, man.
Drew, go on. No, but so now you see like basketball players or Joel Embiid, getting stretched on the sideline. The camera's panning at him. You see him on his phone watching Dragon Ball Super. Wow. Now you have like kids like, oh, what's that? They do the research.
Yeah.
So, I'm and then this goes back when Black Panther came out. People thought that Wakanda was a real place.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not. It's just, I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's America though, not to cut you off, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like, living in America, you can wake up, you get some Chinese food, you know, and then you get some Polish water ice, and then you got some.
It's a melting pot.
Yeah, you got a shirt with like some island out in the Caribbean on it. You know,
Yeah.
it's so like that's the advantage of being in a country like this. Is not every culture gets their fair share of fair shine, but you have an opportunity to push it there.
Yeah,
Whereas
I think that's helping
if
out.
you're in a country that's more culturally restrictive, Germany's not a good example because they seem to be pretty assimilated. But if you go to like Japan or China, that's very hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the ups in living in America.
But is it in Japan though? Because I know hip hop is huge over there.
Right,
Yeah.
but people aren't openly embracing that. It's a subculture. So
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
Japanese people, for the most part in their society, are very cookie cutter. You won't see a lot of deviation, but they have deviation of interest. It's
very
just not
straightforward.
everywhere. Yeah, you wouldn't hear like hip hop blasting outside in like a Japanese place. You would hear Japanese music.
Okay.
But in the USA, man, you know, we have these little Italys, we have these Chinatowns, we have all that kind of stuff that exists, and it's like, whoa, here's a community that is being inclusive, right? But they also have their own spot, which they take on a city block. That's just like, welcome to our culture, you know? And that's a really cool thing. And that's something that I don't think is native to America anymore. I think that's spreading, but initially this was like the breeding ground for that.
Yeah.
So it's a positive thing. And I'm sorry we got off topic. I was going to ask you one more question. Did you want to say something else?
The only thing I was going to add on to that was sort of like to touch up on Sheldon's point. So when we were developing the shirts, I wanted to sort of like move away sort of like from the daishiki, because daishikis are really nice. You know, the daishiki patterns, people are making hoodies with them.
Beautiful.
Now,
Yeah.
and
Beautiful.
shirts, and they're really nice, but African prints are really loud in terms of the colors.
Yeah.
So like there's no tone down, right? Like
No,
you can't.
You can't.
You can't.
You
can't
literally
just-
can't.
Like if you
They're kind of neon almost. I've
Yeah.
noticed. A lot of them, they have these really like
You
bright
stand-
greens.
colors.
You
and
stand
bright
out.
yellows.
You do stand out.
Yeah.
You can't just go anywhere and just blend it. Like
And
you would stand out.
I believe that's the point, right? To
With-
have something like that, to just be a commanding presence. That's why you would wear something like that.
Because I believe they're, and I don't know the exact origin, but
Mhm.
you usually see them in terms of like celebrations. That's when, or
Festive atmosphere.
festive atmosphere and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's when I more so see them,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, so they're always loud.
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of shy away from that and do something that's like, something that's more toned down. That's something that's more sort of just like the point I was the thing I was pointing out with the plaid shirts in Scotland and things like that. Make it in a way where it's so seamless. Like I want people to feel comfortable just picking up the shirt and not think that, hey, I'm trying to make a statement.
Yeah. Do I have the personality to match what I'm wearing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to be like, because now that's another thing that's really popular. You see a lot of these black brands that are coming out, and it's just like,
It's loud.
now I'm black and I'm proud. Like everybody's had that, but I'm trying to think of one that I saw. Hella black, hella proud, and things like that. I just want to wear a shirt.
Right.
I want to be someone like that. Like, just want to. I don't want to be, necessarily make a statement, but I want to do it in a way that,
that is stylish.
like,
it's
it's stylish.
contemporary.
Simplistic. That's the perfect word.
Contemporary. And minimalist.
Exactly.
That's the perfect word.
And that's what sells, man. So
Yeah.
that's why I think you have a winning formula. Not only because you have a vision that's bigger than clothing. I think that's a big reason for your success, but also because you understand that like it has to be aesthetically pleasing if you want to get people's money.
Yes.
Which leads to my and followership. Following. It's not all about the money, of course. I mean, but that leads me to my next question, which is, so you're experiencing success and growth and progression with your idea, and it came solely from you, and now you collaborate. That's great. What lessons have you learned from your mistakes? What lessons have you learned from maybe your overestimations and about what people like and what people will buy? Like, what have you learned in this process of making a business? Because there's probably been some hard lessons.
Yeah.
If you don't mind talking about those.
Yeah. I'm trying to narrow down. So
Making dashikis must be hard. I know they're expensive to make.
Yeah, I would say from sort of working on this business, there are a few. I'm gonna narrow in on a few that I think are the biggest for me. Is really knowing how to utilize your network or sort of like tapping into sort of like the assets that you already have. Meaning a lot of the work that we do, even if it's working with models or photographers and things like that, are things that we're able to do because of our connection. So like our first photo shoot that we did, I solely relied on my cousin's husband. He's a professional photographer, and he's just like, he joked, he's like, I'm doing this for free for now. This is my sort of like pay for Julie's, my cousin named Julie. This is her bride price that I'm using for this. And we just joked about it, and he gave us like, this awesome work, and he's always willing to help out. But originally I was a little afraid to sort of like jump on my ideas, because I was like, well, I don't have the money to build a website. I don't have the money to buy product. I don't have money to hire a photographer. And this is something this is a brand that may not have been launched because I had all these fears of like things that I was looking for outside of what that, of the resources that I already did have. So sort of starting with acknowledging the resources that you have now. So like Udochi, my friend, tapping into his resource, Sarah's creative, sort of like direction and thinking, tap into that. My cousin's photography, tapping into that, and sort of, relying on what I do have as opposed to what I don't have. You know what I mean? It's to not hold myself back.
So it taught you to be resourcul. You were like, look, I need to bring stuff together in order to get this to happen.
Exactly. Being resourceful. Yeah. And also just with not just, and take a different approach than sort of like, if we build it, they will come. Like I said, I'm the kind of person I like to be very careful. So obviously, if you're, when you first come up with an idea and you're developing things, all your family, like my aunt was like, hey, this is an amazing idea. I'll buy like 10,000 of your stuff. She hasn't bought none yet.
Of course your family's going to say that.
Yeah. Like, this is amazing, but also like road testing it. You know what I mean? Like every product we develop, like we road test it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We find a way to sort of get in front of people, new people.
Yeah.
Like, the Adonde festival we went to, people were just like, oh my God, everybody loved this tea.
Yeah.
They was just like, it's so different.
I keep looking at it. That's a dope shirt.
Yeah. This is one of our top sellers. Like a lot of people love this. This t-shirt.
And for people who don't know, because I know we had that conversation at the party, the Adonde Festival is an African cultural festival, right? That's centered around African culture.
Yes.
Or am I oversimplifying it?
No, you're right. Yeah, it's the largest African festival in the country. Actually,
yes,
I never even knew that.
It's in Philadelphia?
It's in Philadelphia, yeah.
How crazy is that?
South Street.
It's nuts.
I had no idea.
Me neither.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That was my first time going to it.
And of course, you were an ambassador there for your brand, and that went well.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we went there. It rained, so it kind of sucked. We had to cover everything.
Was it last week?
Huh?
Last weekend?
No, it was in June.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like 1.5 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So road testing.
Yeah, so road testing it. You know what I mean? Finding our way to tap into being resourceful, tap into the resource that you do have, to not hold yourself back. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because there's the initial doubts when you're starting anything, when you're starting a podcast, when you're starting a diet or a workout plan. There's a lot of, how long can I stick to this? It's going to take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
But you were able to overcome that. And that's something that I guess is due to the fact that you had a plan for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or am I overstating that? Did you have a plan, or were you like, I'm gonna play it by ear and then just?
No, I like to be. I like to be strategic with everything that we do. Like I don't like to just throw anything out there, because that can be bad for the brand, your reputation, because you want people to take you seriously.
Right.
So I would never just do something just by ear. It's very strategic in everything we do. And I think the third thing I was going to say is always keeping an eye on the vision. When I think of BUKTU, one of the things that sort of keeps me going on, when I come home from work, my actual, my career that I have, and I'm exhausted, I sit, like I'll sit back on the couch and I just don't want to do anything. And I'm just like, I just think on this vision of this, this storefront for the brand, this culture. And it just keeps me going. You know what I mean? Like, just never losing sight of that vision of what you have.
Right. The why, as people call it, as maybe motivational speakers like Dr. Eric Thomas have labeled it. When you have hardships in your creative process, or when you're trying to accomplish anything, it's like you have to have a really strong reason why, man, and just like keep reminding yourself of that. That's why people talk about vision boards, right? Where you have this image that's in your room that you constantly refer to, and it visually asserts what you know in your mind is worthwhile, what is meaningful. Exactly. And it's cool to have that, dude. I do the same thing for, you know, I'm in the process of doing a graphic novel, and I've been working on this for years. And a lot of times I'm like, dude, it's taking me so long, and I have to like take so much time out of my day to accomplish the littlest thing. You know, sometimes I'll allocate 4 hours of my day to like finish a page, but I have this vision of the book, like how it's going to look when it's finished, just like you have this vision of the store. And that's what keeps me going. I'm like, man, once I get this book out, like, you know,
it's worth it too.
Yeah. I don't think there's any better feeling. And I talked about this in the very first episode of Andrewcast with Rob 10K Friends. In my opinion, I don't think there's any better feeling than taking something out of your mind and bringing it into a physical reality. Like something that was just an idea, and now it's like, whoa, it's here. That's like the coolest feeling ever, man. And I'm so addicted to that, dude.
Even if it turns out bad or good, it's the fact that you're able to manifest what you had in your mind and put it out there. Like, everyone could hate it, but as long as you're proud of what you were able to create at that moment. Like, we had a guest before, Mike Boyd. He said he made a lot of bad stuff, but he had a few amount of people who loved it, and he said, like, that's what mattered.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if you can touch or inspire one person I did too. If you did one person, that's all that matters. It's just creating inspiration, creating creativity for others, and that's how you build a community. Yeah. You know, when you just have like-minded individuals, and then you can just grow from there. And that's what I'm getting from your company, which is like amazing. Yeah. Because, like I said, it doesn't happen, especially in Afrocentric brand. Yeah. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head that is currently like local or massive out there that's like that. So that's a testament to you, and also like how you're, like you said, you don't like, you're very strategic and stuff like that. And would you attribute that to like how you said your parents were very conservative when coming over here, that you have to move a certain way so you can get certain things done? Would you think it's like that or not?
I think is more of I wouldn't say I had to learn the concept that come to mind. You know, you ever heard of the concept of failing forward? Yeah. So you're learning from your mistakes and things like that. Yeah. I don't necessarily like to. I don't think anybody really likes to fail. It's a good thing. Yeah. But I think it's just always better. It looks, you know, the end result, your deliverables will always look better when, you know, you think about, you know, sort of everything that you put out there. So you put your best foot forward. Being strategic, I think, is really just the drive in me. Yeah. I'm very tenacious. Like, I'm the kind of person I like to go after. I seldom let anything hold me back. Yeah. And this is a brand that I see a lot of potential in what we're doing. And I feel like I want to make sure that everything that I do from the beginning till the end is something that people can see that a lot of work, you know, and thought went into this. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't want it to just be just a word on the shirt, you know what I mean? Because that's, you know, I mean, kudos to those who are making a lot of money doing something like that, but I want it to have meaning. Right. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that I also learned from sort of taking this journey is being authentic and true to yourself. It makes everything more worthwhile. Pays off. It pays off more because when you sort of like envision, like Udochi and I and Sarah and all of us will be sort of like going through, you know, some new products that we'd like to use for our next collection, and we're, you know, going based on colors, you know, for, you know, this is the color that we have, this camel green, maybe make it like this, and then we sort of like envision how somebody would wear this and who the people are that will wear this, and then when you see a customer sort of purchase it and then tag us in one of their posts, and I'm just like, that's exactly that's amazing, and it makes everything, you know what I mean, that this person sort of like saw the value in what you guys created.
People know what's real and people know what's fake, man. That people know what's real and people know what's fake. And when you have meaning, that's a big thing in getting people to deliberate between fake and real. Yeah. You know, and that brings me to another question. I'm not sure if there's any answer behind this, but I noticed that with BUKTU, the mascot or kind of the logo is a mask. Yes. Can you expand on the the position of masks in African culture. What are they used for? Is it a storytelling device? What exactly is that all about? Because I see masks as kind of a common theme.
Yeah, so I mean, everywhere on the African continent you go to, you would see some
every
form
tribe
of
has a mask.
Yeah,
Tribes. That's like how they individualize.
Yeah,
tribes.
Well,
it differentiates. So you have masks that were by the warriors, and I think it was more so warriors and royalty had the mask, and also for ceremonial events and festival events. You have other masks that were folklores or gods, and stuff like that. It's kind of like other cultures with I'm trying to actually think of other cultures that use masks. I can't really think of one off the top of my head.
Japanese is another one.
Yeah, Japanese. So
with
Japanese have masks.
Tengus and kitsunes and
right. So
all that.
It's stuff like that. And then they also had masks where they way back centuries to thousands of years ago they would have the mask, like the mask burials and stuff like that. So there's
were they like physically burying a mask?
Well, they'd be so in Egypt, in Egypt they had the sarcophagus.
Yeah.
They place him in there, and there was there's other places in Africa. I did a project on one. I forget what it was, but it was a mask that they would put on the person's face, and when they were buried, so it's like as an entry point to the other world, and like more so for warriors and stuff like that, or hunters. So there's there's so many different differences for masks, and that's like one of the best things about Africa is just the mask that they have. Like every tribe has their own mask.
Yeah. I was gonna tie it into because like I said, I felt I grew up here in the States. I'm not as close to sort of like at least my culture as I'd like to be. I'm still trying to sort of revisit that history that we're sort of I don't want to say taking from me, but I sort of like,
yeah, I know what you're saying,
and I don't want to say lost either because it still kept with me. But just that I never really got to explore as much as I would.
Heritage.
But, heritage, exactly. But the mask, definitely, if you're going African, the mask is definitely something that you see among many African cultures, something that we can all relate to. Yeah. Many of them have different meanings. But for us, I thought that was one of the most recognizable sort of African symbol.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're going as an African brand, would be a mask.
I always think about, I'm not sure if you ever played Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation 1. No. There's a mask known as Aku Aku. And it's definitely, the inspiration is definitely taken from African mask. I always thought so, especially his evil brother. I forget
his name too.
Yeah, but
it's funny about the mask because the mask is African, but his voice, if I remember correctly, was he Jamaican?
He sounded kind of Jamaican.
Was he? So yeah, that's just like like the ignorance of just growing up. It's funny.
That was like the orange squirrel.
Yeah,
he was a bandicoot.
A bandicoot, which is an Australian marsupial. It's a very uncommon animal. But
you said squirrel, and I was thinking of that.
Well, it's close, and the nose looks like.
I was thinking of Conker's.
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah, when you said squirrel, I was like, whoa, that might be
an orange squirrel. Yeah, but I always thought, and there's a lot of what I really like about African masks are the similarities. So there's always like a very pronounced nose, and the eyes. Sometimes the eyes are kind of like slits, like this.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of almost looks like a frog's eye because you have the eyeball itself is present, but the slit to see through is like one kind of slit, so it almost looks like an animal and a human combined. But I always thought that there's such an emphasis on the nose and cheekbones and eyes. It's a very strong facial structure thing, and a lot of these masks, correct me if I'm wrong, they seem to be made out of wood, which even like gives them more of a structure to them. That in itself is like appeasing. Like, so you have in Polynesian culture, you have these tiki masks and stuff that you would see in Hawaii, but those seem to be a bit more vicious, like they're gritting their teeth, and the brow like really comes down and is like really pronounced. But I feel like with African masks, it's almost like characters, like an elderly person or somebody who is young. So I could definitely see that classifying different groups of people.
Like they have, like you said, the Polynesian, like the Samoan masks, were more so for battle.
Yeah, those are serious, man.
They're serious. And you've seen like the haka dance, that they do when they,
you ever seen the
slap
haka?
the thighs.
I've seen that, yeah.
Bro, that's so cool.
It's intimidating. Man. It's like, but it's also shown as they do it at wedding ceremonies too.
Yeah.
And it's like a rite of passage for, we accept you, the groom, our brother, to marry a sister, like something like that, you know.
They do that for when people died too. There was a viral video.
The school did it for a teacher.
Yeah, so there was a teacher that passed away, and this is a really emotional video, and I think it was in New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken.
New Zealand or Australia.
And the whole school is in like
beautiful.
the atrium or wherever they would give like the school announcements or, and the whole school is in uniform, and they're all doing a haka together.
And the hearse is coming through the school, and this had to be, I think, like 2,000 some kids.
Yeah,
like we're talking like kids, like 6th to maybe 9th grade. They all look young. They all look real young. And so the hearse is coming into the school, and they stop, and you see the kids all making like animalistic noises. They're on their hands and like knees. They're like you know, like and like tongues are out, and
it's so intense.
And it's so intense. And dude, you can like if someone dropped a penny, you would hear it. That's how quiet it was. And then you had one guy go, like he does a scream, and then everyone just starts doing like the ritualistic dance, dude. And it's like, it's amazing when you see it. Yeah. And like Africa, they don't have. I don't know if certain countries could have something like that.
Yeah.
But they definitely do something for like birthdays that I've seen videos of, where they'll have the whole like town together. I haven't seen like one that has a mask in a while, but I know like way back they had like masks and like dances, and like, you know, you put the mask on, and like you said, it's kind of like a character, so you're now something else.
Right, you embody that.
Yeah, you embody the soul of the mask, because I think that's another thing. The mask represented the soul of someone in the past.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about African masks I like, is that they're made with like straw, you know, and like feathers and stuff like that. They're like beautiful masks.
Yeah. It's amazing to see what cultural traditions prevail. Like you would not really, if you were a betting man and you looked at all the cultural traditions of the Polynesian culture, you probably wouldn't bet that the haka was going to be around in like 2018.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, you know, with a lot of Eastern culture. So I've been to Japan 3 times, and there's a ceremony in Tokyo called the baby crying ceremony. I'm not making this up.
Is this when they have like the baby masks?
No. So it's not masks. What happens is
I feel like I know what you're talking about.
a lot of times there'll be a podium and a bunch of people around, a bunch of Japanese people. It's almost a festival centered around this podium, and there is sometimes there's a sumo wrestler, just because that's such a popular sport in Japan. But they'll have somebody who's like a very prominent person be handed a baby, like an infant baby, and you know, this is all consensual. The parent will hand their baby to like the sumo wrestler, the person who's kind of hosting the ceremony, and they'll take the baby and face the baby to their face and make faces, like scary faces, to try and make it cry. And the traditional significance of that is that the cry of the baby is supposed to scare away demons. It's not the context of this ceremony now in 2018 is not that people are actually believing that it works, but it's because it's a traditional thing, because it's persevered through the years.
I like that.
It's not cruel, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a little insensitive to the baby, but it's a point for all these people to gather around that, and like there's food and stuff like that, and it's a very laughable thing, you know. People are like, oh, like it's a funny thing, so it's weird to see what perseveres, you know, throughout time. And I feel like African culture is so rich that there's probably so many examples of that. You know, I'd love to know more.
Yeah, and I think it's always interesting because a lot of oftentimes when you think of African culture, we all you know, usually get lumped into one thing, like all Africans, but it's like Africa is just like so diverse. It's easy to paint one picture, you know, when everybody on the continent, you know, of darker skin, but it's like even the physical features of certain African, it changes. That's one of the I mean, I feel like a lot of people would agree that that's one of the reason why even a lot of African countries today still suffer, you know, to really, you know, keep their country afloat, because there's so many infighting going, because ethnically there's just, you pretty much look at it, you take a country like Nigeria that has like over, what is it, I don't want to say 200 different, but I think it's almost is that high. They have so many different ethnic group, you just lump them into one country. It's just like, okay, well, you guys, you know,
it's a lot of conflict.
Is so diverse, and every, you know, you go to one country and each different tribe does something different. In Liberia we have 16 different tribes, and they're all so different from each other.
Right. It's, you know what I mean? It's one of the most interesting places in the world, man.
Yeah.
It's just it's so crazy.
Yeah, that's a life that's like a lifelong trip of mine to go to Africa, just to experience it, because like you said, it's so many different countries within Africa, and each place is different.
Yeah,
like you have Egypt, where their religion is they're Muslim and stuff like that, and then you go a little south, and now it's like Christianity.
Yeah,
and I don't know if is Catholic big in Africa.
Catholicism in Africa.
I'm not sure if the Catholic religion's big in Africa, but I know Christianity is. I know Christianity is huge, and then like you have Egypt, Morocco, Algeria. They're more because they're right on the Middle East, so they're near the Middle East, so they're very Muslim centric. So it's like it's so amazing how like different it is.
Yeah,
and even if you look at a picture of Africa on like on a map, you see it's like it just goes dry to just trees and stuff like that, to a little bit of a dry again, or like in certain spots, and then at the bottom, like South Africa, it's like tropical. It's like so. It's interesting.
It's weird, man.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Continent.
It's bursting with animal life, and I think that's like what marks it for a lot of people. Like, I think when people think of Africa, the first thing they think about is the animals, you know, and that's kind of a typical way to look at it, I'd say, because obviously the culture of people there is something that's very important to its history, but you know, it's bursting with natural resource and just animals that you can't find anywhere else on the planet. That historically was a big draw, especially for Italy and Europeans. A lot
of people think tigers and Bengals are in Africa. They're not.
No, I mean you can find tigers in India.
Yeah.
And in Africa, you know, you find animals that can survive in dry lands. You know, that's elephants, that's lions and stuff like that. Yeah. But you know, there's been a lot of cultures that have borrowed animal life from Africa. For example, this is one of the craziest things to me, and this is probably common knowledge, but in the days of the Caesar in Rome, where they had a Colosseum, they would have people that would go on expeditions to Africa to just take animals like elephants and lions and stuff to fight them in the Colosseum with people that they had issued as prisoners and participants in the Colosseum. So like even the animal life has always been like a draw for people. There's so much artistic inspiration there. I feel like if you're a creative individual and you go to visit, which I've never been, so I'm in the same boat as you, I want to go. It's hard to walk away not being inspired by like the people, by the animals, by just everything that's there.
Do you guys know the song "All the Stars," the Kendrick Lamar and SZA song? Did you see the music video?
I did.
Dude, it has like, and there's this one scene in particular where it was the gold room that he's walking in, and the women, they're dressed in like you said, artwork from Africa that not a lot of people know about. That a lot of artistic minds are from Africa, and it was like the Zimbabwean shapes and stuff like that, and it's like, and like also Egyptian like shapes. It was just so cool because you don't, like you said, you don't see that much because a lot of things were like taken from Africa, but you don't get to see it at in like a pop culture way. Yeah, but now we're starting to. Which is great.
Yeah, and I like that. Not only are you seeing it, but it's like almost like we're telling the story.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's the Kendrick Lamar. Like it's Kendrick Lamar. Everybody knows Kendrick Lamar. And what is he doing there? You know what I mean?
And you see him with a silk head wrap and like a kind of like a dashiki like silk like robe. Yeah. And dude, it's just dope.
Yeah, and they're helping to sort of penetrate sort of like those communities, like you know, like where a lot of those kids from who used to make fun of me from being African, who had no idea of the culture, and you know, because it really is their own history as well. You know what I mean? You're a part of my history. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's our history, and
I'd also say that music in America sets the tone for the entire world, in my opinion. And I'm ready to debate that on this podcast. Like, you know, anywhere you'll go, and you went to Germany, you probably heard American songs all the time. Messages and music are so important, to bringing people to idealistic views of the world. Like, music is a big thing, man.
Dude, people can learn a language. Like, let's say if you spoke just French, right? And like you said, music that thrives in America thrives throughout the world. Like, it comes to here, and if it does well here, it will do well everywhere. Right. So let's say if you spoke French, then you heard a song that's all English, and you're like, oh, this is good. Next, you know, you learn English. Then you can another song and another song. Now you're watching movies and stuff like that. So it's, like I said, that's just music is so digestible and so easy. And you'll see concerts. That's why when people go to different countries, like in Brazil, you'll see Jay-Z rapping in Brazil, and the fans know all his songs. But then in conversation, it's very hard for them to speak English. But the song comes on.
That happened to me this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, where are you at?
No. When I was with my girlfriend's cousin, she's from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And she can understand English, but she can't speak it.
Yeah.
So then we're in the car, and I forgot what it was we're listening to. We're listening to some pop song, and she's like, I think it was Drake. She was like rapping in English. I was just like, and she like speaking English. Yeah. I was like, hey, you know this song? And she's like, oh, see, like she's speaking Spanish. I was like, oh, dang it. I thought she was
like him and I. We were on PlayStation watching Twitch, and we went to like this one channel, and this woman was speaking like I think it was Russian.
I remember this.
It was really fast and like fluent, right? And she was like, people were typing in English, and she was like reading it, and it was very like broken, right? And then she went to sing a song, and it just had no accent, and she knew it was like an English song, and she was just singing it. And me and him were like, it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's just amazing how music can do that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's nuts, and it teaches us things. It teaches us things, but it also sets the mood for the culture. Like, it sets the mood for what's cool, like down to the stuff we wear, to the stuff we think. And I would say that hip hop, especially because hip hop has more of a lyrical capacity, where you're saying a lot more in hip hop than you would be in a typical song. Like, what's the Nas song? I know I can. He does a whole thing about Africa in that song. Yeah, which is like a pretty powerful statement.
I forget what song it is.
Yeah.
But I'm loving that Afrobeat is definitely WizKid. I love WizKid.
See, I don't know that. Who's that?
Yeah, he's Nigerian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's from Nigerian.
WizKid.
Oh yeah,
WizKid.
Yeah, WizKid.
He's huge.
I can play music.
Really?
One Starboy.
Yeah.
I know Starboy.
And oh man, I have another artist in my phone, but I forget his name.
Davido.
No, something B. What is his name? He has a song called Joanna right now.
Joanna.
Yeah, I can play for it. Damn, what's his name? I forget his name. But I can play it for you after, and you hear it. It's called Drogba. The song's called Drogba. How you gonna treat me like Drogba? Yeah, it's a sick song, but I'll show you after. But yeah, Afro beat is, dude. It's weird. It is big everywhere else, everywhere in the world. UK, Germany. Well, those are pretty much the only places I've been to, and it's like slowly coming here. But we need like American artists to do it first, and then the Afrobeat artists can have entry to it.
Yeah,
that's what it would be.
You actually, WizKid actually did a collaboration with Drake.
Yes. Oh my God, what was that
song? One Dance.
Not that one. No, that was One Dance, but he's a.
Yeah,
we mix with the drama to go outside. Oh my God, what was that song called? Oh, it's gonna bother me.
That lyric is really familiar.
I have it on my phone.
Let me Google it. I'll Google it real quick. What's the lyric there?
Easy. Is it? It's not easy.
Oh my God, what's that song called? I can hear it in my head.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what is it called?
Hold up, I got it. WizKid and Drake. I'm just put that up.
But do you listen to a lot of Afrobeat?
I do. Yeah, I do. That was the Afrobeats actually helped me sort of like reconnect with the continent.
Oh, dude.
And really be proud of what my people were doing.
That's the one.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're good. It sort of like it definitely did help me sort of like come closer to my culture and really appreciate African music.
Yeah,
because I didn't used to listen to Afrobeat until I started listening to it. I think I was visiting a cousin's. They live in the suburbs of Coatesville, and she had a lot of Afrobeats, and it was P Square. So they're Nigerian as well. So the Nigerian, when it comes to Afrobeats, Nigerians, Ghanaians,
they're like the top.
They're killing it.
They're
especially
killing the game.
Nigerians. They're just killing it. WizKid and Davido they're like household names, and like when you hear Afrobeats, no matter what country you are in, it's either WizKid or Davido or a combination of the both. Like they are the tippy top.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like is Afrobeat, that music is like designed for dance, right? Isn't that its original intention?
All right, so Afrobeat. Okay, I could be very wrong. I could be very wrong here.
I don't know.
It's hard.
I'm just asking.
So I'll give it as my opinion, my explanation, what it is like to me. So it is the pop music it is traditional dances to an to a popular beat. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. So it is very Afrocentric and with different dialects and languages, like lyrically, but the beat that they are going over obviously is made for you to dance, but also is something that can be digestible. Yeah. Very digestible. It's not like traditional, but it's modernized, if that makes sense.
It is. I'd second that. It is, because it's like you sort of take, overall the beats themselves are very modernized. Like it's going to be like
Burna Boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a beat that you hear on like a Drake song, so it's something that you can relate to.
Yes.
But they'll have like, sort of like the drums or like like some other African instruments or the accents of it that sort of like creates its own little sort of genre of like Afrobeat. It's pop music, it's African pop music, Afro pop. Like that's what it is. No, it's really
very similar. So a lot of Afrobeat production wise has like kind of the same, like, I don't want to say beat pattern, but like drums and instruments using it, kind of like reggaeton and stuff like that. You know, you hear reggaeton like like that. So that's like a staple for reggaeton. Afrobeat has something similar, but I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's definitely the drums. It's a certain drum that they use. It kind of sounds like the pan drum a little bit, but yeah.
Well, that's a very percussive musical culture, man. It's all it's all about drums. I believe in African music.
So it's all leg work. Yeah, all leg work.
It's all leg work.
Leg work,
bro. You gotta have some fast feet. you gotta have some fast feet, bro, because you will sweat. Like the functions are always sweaty.
It is.
Like, man.
But they use your that and African music, when you're dancing to African music, is something that requires is a full body type of thing. It's not just like leg work or arm. Like
you gotta be athletic.
It's everything. Like people have African sort of like dance studios where people just go just to lose weight.
Really?
Like,
dude, like I said, it's fast, very fast.
Huh.
Like, it requires everything. Look at any African dance if you get the chance, and it's like, I'm talking their legs, their neck, like everything is moving.
It's very expressive.
Yes.
Like it's as if you're channeling something else within yourself, pretty much.
Yeah.
Dancing in and of itself is weird. Like, you ever think about that? You ever think like you're listening to music and you're like, why does this make me want to move?
Yeah.
Like just that, like, I know maybe I'm splitting hairs here, but like, doesn't that just weird you out? You know, like you're like, what about this sound? Like, cause I'm listening to a sound. What about it makes me want to move? Do you think it's because
that's the mystery, man?
No, but do you think it's because like we've modeled it by looking at people dancing our whole life, or like if we've never seen anyone dancing our whole life and we heard that sound, will we naturally want to move? Like, what do you think?
I think one thing that comes to me is sort of like how Africans used to use sort of like beats and drums and to tell a story.
Ooh.
And then people like maybe like acted it out and things like that. Okay. So it sort of took that form, at least from an African perspective. I think other cultures,
like for like ceremony, like it started off as like a ritual. I think it always started off as like ritual dances to chant, to bring ghosts or demons, right?
But dancing in and of itself is ritualistic. Like there's rules. You know what I'm saying? There's rules to, like, if you go to a club like today, if you go to a club and just like start dancing, there's like unspoken rules that you have on the dance floor. Like it's so weird, you know? So it is ritualistic in its own way.
Yeah. Dude, and sometimes, you know, I don't know what it is. Like you'll hear that, like that, just that bass and that bump, and like you're not yourself anymore.
Yeah.
Like you just move.
Yeah.
You just go.
Well, Chris was talking about that earlier with mood. He was like, I was playing music on the way over here, you know, and like I was affecting his mood. But nah, hype up songs, bro. Like hype up songs, man. Just like anything that you put on.
Hype up songs never are the same as when you listen to it by yourself and with others.
That's true. That's true. Like, that's true, because you're feeding off of everybody else getting hyped, like everybody else.
Exactly.
You're listening. You're thinking of like a crowd of people. While
like I would never listen to DMX by myself. Like I mean, I sometimes, but like
just sitting down on your
if
computer.
I'm chilling, I'm like,
X gonna give it to
I'm
you.
like, I'm chilling. I'm like, stop, stop. Shut him down, over up. Like you wouldn't do that by yourself.
No.
But when you got the speakers going, and then everyone's like,
hopping.
Oh my god,
that's why concerts are lit, bro.
When Steve was DJing the other night. Like if we were by ourselves and like let's say it was just us in this room and he's playing that, we'd be chilling and we'd be like, yeah, this is cool. But when you have everyone on the same level, just vibing and dancing, dude, we were sweating in there. Like,
right.
We were just killing it.
Yeah, man.
I remember we left. You're like, oh man, I don't want to leave.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave, bro. There's something contagious about just jumping up and down with other people to something, man.
Even people that you don't know.
Well, that's
and then you guys, like you'll look at each other and you'll be like, oh, like dancing together, and then you get a circle going.
It's in the same lane as alcohol, man. I feel like dancing and music is a social lubricant. It makes things way easier, dude. To just kind of let loose, because to dance is to. You kind of have to throw away your pride a little bit.
You have to. You
gotta
be
silly, man. That's why people like you meet people like I can't dance. It's like. Or what
you
know
what
saying,
I do when
though?
people say that? When they say they can't dance, I wait for it. I sneak behind them. I'm like, all right, big fella.
No, you push them right in the circle.
You have to.
See.
And it's like, and then when they're in a circle, and then they get like, then you have to dance with them. You got to ease them into it. It's like, yo, come on, like,
right.
have fun. Like, it's not fun just standing on the side. You got to like, get in.
I do that to my girlfriend all the time when we go out.
She's like that.
She's shy. Like
Dude,
she's
so is mine.
Yeah, she's like the kind of person. She's like, I feel like she has to drink to like. Loosen up. And I'm just like, sometimes, yes, exactly. Sometimes I'll just like have her, like I'll, stand behind her and have her face the crowd, because it sort of helps me out when I just throw myself out there wholeheartedly and just do something. I'm just like, babe, look at all of these people. You have no idea who these people are.
Never see them again.
You would never see them again. Why does it even matter? And then I'll just leave her. Then I'll go in there and I'll just like do something stupid. She gets so angry when I do the Millie Wop. She's like, oh my God, you're just always doing this thing. And I'm just like, she doesn't notice it, but every time I'm in the club and I'm doing something like that, there's some random guy, usually it's like another black guy. It's like, hey bro, he's like, hey, yeah. And I'm just like,
So he gets it.
She's like, he gets it. And you're right, it's like a social lubricant, because it's like you're just letting loose.
I always
just putting your pride
because my girlfriend, she'll like, if it's just me and her in a room, like, and songs on, she'll dance, right, and she'll get into a whole performance, like when we're by ourselves. But when we're in public, she's like, whatever, not really doing anything. So then I got to gas her up, like, damn, what you got on? Like, man, you gotta get in the dance floor, like stuff like that. It's like, you better bust a move.
Right.
I got some good shoes on. You better get out there, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's right. But back to you said like. Someone told me this a while ago when, like you just said, you were doing a Millie Rock, and then another black guy saw you, and he's like, "Hey," and it's like I saw it on Twitter. They were like, "I know everything is good in the world when I could walk down the street, see another black guy, just go like this, he does it back, and I know that today's gonna be a good day." And I was like, dude, that's so funny, because like, I don't know if it's like because black people are like the minority, so if you see another, you be like that, and they do it back, it's like. All right, he's having a good day.
Yeah.
I saw this funny meme that always stuck with me, man. They say that black people go like this, and white people go like that.
That's all I said. White people tip their hat. They don't have a hat on. They're just like, what are you doing?
Bro, that's true for me. I always go like this, yo.
Dude, it's like if I catch eyes with someone else and we'll be like, it's like that. It's like I know like all good is in the world.
Right,
I know everything's. He's having a good day. He knows I'm having a good day.
Man. Yeah. And I think it's sort of interesting you say that, because I was actually thinking about that the other day, on how sort of like there's always like this subliminal sort of tension whenever, like, especially when there's two black guys like in sort of like the same space together, you have like this, I don't know, it's sort of like it's definitely changing now. We're in a place from back in the day, like you would just not say anything to that person, like, because it's like uncool. Like, why are you talking to me? You're not my friend. Yeah. But now we're in the era where it's just like, hey, like, what's up? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I knew, I'm
not sure if you feel that same way.
I think I know what you're saying a little bit. But that meme solidified to me that it's definitely a universal thing. Because when I was in Germany, I saw another black guy. We were like across the street. I just looked and he just looked. We were like, and he was like. And I was like, all right, you have a good one. You have a good day. You have a good day. It's just things like that's just funny.
Like a black progress.
Yeah, it's just funny. Yeah. But yeah, what do you mean by the tension part? Because I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it used to be always sort of this. I'm trying to find the right word for it, the right term. Sort of as sorry, as black males, it's always this subliminal, like when you, how would I put it? I honestly can't quite put my hand on it, but it's sort of
it's
like
just one of those
you
things.
always have to have sort of like this sort of like
on guard
masculine, this masculinity
about I know
you, like
okay,
like I'm me, why why are you talking to me or like you know what I mean, don't say hi to me, or it's not as cool when you're saying hi or like sup or something like to somebody.
Okay,
it sounds like a strength thing to me.
Yeah, like a
there
there
is hopefully no one kills me for this. So there is or was a what's the right word? It's like a toxic male I don't know if it's inferiority. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. But there's like a toxic male thing, whereas like if you're in a setting, you have to be the alpha male. And I don't know if it's like if it stems from black people's history in America, when we come like just not having opportunities and being placed in like like raised in ghettos and stuff like that. I don't know if it's that, but there is like male complex that like an aggression. There's like a underlying aggression that a lot of us black people have. I think it is because of like the treatment of black people in America, and it's obviously fading and it's going away because but I think that was definitely more of a thing 10, 20 years ago compared to now.
It's definitely changed.
Yeah, because like now it's just like there's a whole brother and sister movement going on. It's like, oh, my brother, my sister, like, trying to bring the culture together because, I don't want to say cops are killing black people, but, it's just like bad things happening to black people every day, and it's always on camera. Exactly. So, and it's more on camera than other, races and cultures are having. It just seems like it's only happening to us. So I feel like that's where a lot of aggression comes from, because like the Black Panther movement in the 60s, that was built like if the police aren't going to protect us, we're going to protect our own and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's where it might have stemmed from.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, man.
No, I definitely know it's a change. And Andrew's sorry if we could keep making it like a racer.
Bro, no, dude.
I think.
No, just because I'm not black, I mean, like, obviously I have no idea what it's like to be black, but I can kind of see your point because I'm historically in America, like, dude, when I think about America, like, that had Jim Crow laws, like, people had to, like, drink from, like, different water fountains and stuff. Yeah. Like, bro, how could you not be militant after that?
And how could you not be angry know what's even crazier? Bro, that was 53 years ago.
It's pretty nuts.
Like, if you think about it, like, I forget. I think we might have talked about it on this podcast when I came back from Germany. How all other countries besides America are thousands of years old. They're old and stuff like that. America's only 400 something, 500 years old. You know what I mean? Wow. Mm-hmm. So, slavery ended 400 years ago. So, segregation, I'm trying to think, I got my years all mixed up. Slavery ended slavery ended 400 years ago, and then black people were mistreated from 400 years ago up until like the 20s, where you couldn't, like, then you were segregated, and that's when like you could like be free and all that stuff. And then to the 60s, and then the 60s, that's when like segregation ended. But like you still have people who just are shitty people and mistreat people, and when it's like you're the same, black or white, you're the same person. You just have different opportunities in life. And that's one of the things that like drove me crazy, like growing up, back to like the African booty scratcher thing. It's like dude, it's like we all like live in like a lot of places around here are like townhouses and stuff like that. And then you have some houses, it's like, but people would have a stigma that just because of color of your skin, you're more poor. You know what I mean? It's so weird.
Yeah.
And
I think to explain racism is hard because
I don't think it can ever be explained.
I don't think it can be explained. And obviously, like, there's exceptions to the rule. But when I look at racist populations and people that are racist, it seems like a very mob mentality. We talked about cycles in the beginning, man. It's like a family or families of people that don't like a certain person, and so they raise a kid up to be that way. Because this is my belief, and I may be wrong. I'm open to be debated on this. I don't think kids naturally are racist.
They're not.
I think if you're a kid, like, and you see, like, if you're a white kid, and you see someone's black, or you're a black person, see someone's white. If you haven't had any like social programming to tell you otherwise, you don't care. You're just like, yo, let's hang out.
Did you see? It was a video. I think it came out last year. It was a little white girl and a little black girl, and they both had the same birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were like 4 or 5, and they're in preschool, and the teacher's recording them. And the little white girl was like, "Oh, we had the same birthday. You're my sister. I always wanted a sister." It's like stuff like that. It's like,
right.
Dude, you're not programmed to hate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe you're programmed to love. You know, I don't think you could ever hate someone. It's just how it's the people who are in your family or your community that you're surrounded around that will teach things and will say, this is wrong, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't hang around those people. I never understood that. We grew up in one of the most diverse towns in the country, probably.
Yeah. The
Like,
high school that we went to was like super diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then there were some people who were, you know, like racist, and some were like blatantly obvious and like stuff like that. And it's like, dude, how? It's like I know where you live in your part of town, and you're surrounded by people that are different from you. How do you like hate people around you like that? Like I don't get it.
But
I never understood it.
I also think it's one of those. It's also one of those weird things. It sort of touches on what you're saying when you're talking about desegregation, like in the '60s and things like that. With like oftentimes, especially people in our generation, we like to think of sort of like racism, sort of like this thing of like this distant past, like, oh, slavery ended 400 years ago, and so did, you know, racism along with it. But many of these people who, you know, were racist and prejudiced to people in like the 60s, the 70s, they're still here.
Yeah,
like,
they're still alive
and kicking. Like it's, yes, you know, like it's been like, you know, 60 years or 50 years past that, but it's like we're still, and it kind of makes me like, when I actually had to sit down and really sort of like cope with this, I was just like, I always wanted to be sort of like, you know, to grow up in, you know, this era where it's just like, oh, racism really was something that was 400 years ago. But I had to sort of like face the realization that I'm like, no, like you're still a part of this sort of like ongoing process that, you know, is still,
we're still the trial run.
Yeah. But I think we're definitely made progress from, you know, definitely. And that's something that I also do try to capture in the brand too. Like I was having a conversation with Dochi and Sarah on sort of like one of the reasons why I feel like it's so important to highlight these sort of like Black urban culture, because there's sort of like been this major shift from, you know, what was popular from back in the days, you know, where people live, you know what I mean? Like with our grandparents and our parents, you know what I mean? Like people who had money, you know, the whiter people, everybody wanted to move to the suburbs, you know, to get away from the minorities, get away from the, you know, the violence, the everything. But now with the younger generation, the younger Caucasian white generation,
back into the city.
They're moving into the city because that's where all the cool people are. That's where everything is.
Yeah.
That's the melting pot, the business, the money. You know what I mean? That's where everything is. So it's like this shift. And now, you know, they're coming back into this city, these urban centers where, you know, Black and minorities, you know, have lived and have thrived and created this pop culture that's sweeping, you know, the world. And now it's sort of like we're rubbing up against each other. Dude,
look at the music charts. Like it's all rap music.
I was gonna bring that up, man. Hip Hop is Dead by Nas, man, really talks about the commercialization of hip hop and how it's like almost McDonald's like platform package now. That's what happens, man. I mean, is it good? Is it bad? It depends on if the message of it and the nature of it is diluted. You know what I'm saying? But like that is what's happening. That it's becoming mainstream. That cultural movement that started in that urban area is now becoming the mainstay. It's really an interesting shift to watch, and I think 10 years from now it's going to give us a pretty good perspective on how things are going to be. Yeah, definitely. Hopefully it helps us assimilate more and brings us to an understanding. But, you know, there's pros and cons with that, man. A lot of people embarrass themselves out there. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. So,
but I also think it's cool, too, you know, to have, you know, even though some people would talk about, you know, cultural appropriation and things like that. But I think one of the things I want to highlight with the brand is, you know, that, hey, we can have this sort of like suburban culture from African sort of descent, but it's something that can be shared and assimilate, you know, assimilate into our culture, and it can be applicable no matter who you are.
I have a, oh, my bad, dude. Go for it.
When you said the cultural appropriation, my definition on it just recently changed because of a documentary. I gotta send it to you. So I want to know what do you guys think is cultural appropriation?
I'm glad you asked that, because I was just about to dive into my definition of cultural appropriation. So my definition of cultural appropriation is different. It might be offensive, and I'm willing to have my mind changed on it.
Yeah.
I think that cultural appropriation doesn't exist in the sense that if you are taking someone's culture and enjoying it, that's the United States of America. Culture, like, you can be like, oh, you have dreads and you're a white person, but it's like you go and you have Chinese food and you're not Chinese.
Yeah.
Also, the Romans had dreadlocks. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you live in America and you're doing all these things that are from different cultures, would you consider that cultural appropriation? Now, I consider something to be negative in the sense that you're disrespecting someone's culture. Like, you're wearing a headdress that is like reserved for a ceremony when somebody dies, and you're wearing it out and you're partying and you're not part of the culture. Like, that's a little disrespectful, right? Like, let's respect the ritual of this person. But if you're I don't know if you're a white person wearing a dashiki, if people find that offensive. You said that people do that in Germany.
I saw 2 people doing it.
Yeah, so it's like, my thing is, look at the significance of that thing in the culture. If it's something that's supposed to be revered and something that's supposed to be honored, then honor it and revere it, and don't partake in it unless you're supposed to partake in it. But if, like, I love Japanese culture, man. Like, I wear Japanese clothes, I listen to Japanese music, I eat Japanese food, I've been there 3 times. I wouldn't consider that to be cultural appropriation. I have an honor and respect for that culture. So, like, that's how I see cultural appropriation.
I gotta answer for both of you. Now, what do you think it is?
No, I was going to say, and it's long-winded as usual, but I actually went to an event that they had at Temple where this student actually highlighted that, the difference in cultural appropriation, cultural appreciation. What was the third one? But I think typically it all gets usually gets lumped into just cultural appropriation. But in my opinion, cultural appropriation is sort of taking something from another culture and not sort of giving them sort of the recognition or paying homage or really understanding even what it means. Like you're just sort of like taking and saying, I'm taking this and this is what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that point.
Yeah.
So because my definition was like a mixture of both yours, and then it just recently changed. So there's this documentary that Viceland put out. It's on YouTube. It's 25 minutes long. 4 white guys creating a K-pop band.
I watched that.
Okay. And it was amazing. And so it actually opened my eyes, and it changed my definition of that. Because when you first watch the documentary, you're like, it's like, damn, these dudes are really like, dude, the makeup, the clothes, like, and how they're doing the hair, it was like K-pop, and K-pop is just Korean pop. So my definition changed to, like, cultural appropriation to me is when someone or people take from a different culture and only use it to thrive by social or monetary gain.
Right.
So that's what it means to me. So I'm gonna give an example. So I don't think Post Malone culture appropriates, right? I don't think that at all.
Well, what would be the basis that he did?
So he did an interview with H3H3 podcast. He did a podcast episode, and so he obviously does hip hop music, right? So the host asked me, he's like, "So when you're sad, what do you listen to?" And he was like a little drunk, and he was like, "Listen, when you're sad, don't listen to that hip hop shit." He's like, "Put on some Bob Dylan and stuff like that." So, and how he said it, he said it wrong. Like, I knew what he meant. When he said, like, hip-hop, he meant, like, the shit that's going on. Like, music now is like, yeah, yeah, like that type of hip-hop, right? Like the SoundCloud rap hip-hop.
Yeah.
And he, did apology and what he said what he meant. But he said, also, I'm just letting you know, this is what I listen to when I'm sad, which is fair. You can't tell him he's wrong or right. So going back to, like, the guys from the K-pop band, they, like you said, they love South Korea. They moved to South Korea. They learned the language in South Korea. And they're doing music in South Korea. And they're learning the customs. They're doing everything from the head bowing. They're doing everything. So I'm like, that's not cultural appropriation. And here's another thing. America has a problem with trying to own everything, right? Mm-hmm. So in the documentary, they asked people in South Korea how they feel about these 4 white guys, and they were like, yeah, their pronunciation's off, but they make good music.
Right.
It's like, I like what they're doing. They're doing everything respectful.
Yeah.
And then they were talking to American people. Oh, I don't want white people in my K-pop. What's this my?
Right. That's
like
it's tribalism, man. It's tribalism. And my thing has always been this. I'm interested in you as a person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're a white person and people say that you dress like a black person,
yeah,
or you're a black person and you dress like a white person,
yeah,
quote unquote, I don't care about any of that. That's all stuff that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
How are you as a person? How do
Yeah.
you justify what you wear? How do you justify what you do? How do you justify what you say?
Yeah.
Individualism has been lost for like this group identity. And that's more racist than anything else.
And it's like,
because you look at this person, you go, oh, because you look like this, then you have to do that. Like
Yeah.
that in itself is racist.
dude, even look at Eminem. Eminem was raised in the hood.
Yeah.
Surrounded by the culture in the hood.
Yeah.
Everyone was rapping. So what do? He rapped and it's like people are clowning him. Like even when he came up and they were saying, oh, he's a wigger and stuff like that. And like and black people around Detroit was like, nah, he's dope.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're getting the okay from the culture, it doesn't matter what anyone else says.
Yeah.
So like the 4 white dudes in South Korea, they were like, oh, keep going. The South Koreans were like, oh, keep going. You guys will make it. Like, your music's good.
Yeah.
You just need to work on the pronunciation. And that's going to come over time. Like, because I know a little bit of German, but my pronunciation isn't there. But people, like, let's say if I was starting to talk it here, people would be like, oh, you're German shit. But over there, like in Germany, they'd be like, oh, you just say it like this, and then it's good.
Right, man.
The culture will always help you.
Right.
Yeah.
The culture will teach you.
Right.
And if you're willing to learn, you're not culturally appropriating.
Right.
So like that documentary, like it opened my eyes, because at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh, why does the white guy have dreads? Like, stupid stuff like that. I was like, why does he have dreads? Mm-hmm. Like at the Revolution concerts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, oh, dude, they really think like that music and culture is dope.
Yeah.
So who am I to say they're wrong for liking something like that? You know what I mean? So that's it, and that documentary changed like my whole outlook on it.
No, it was really interesting. I thought it was also interesting too, because even within that same documentary, they talk about even how K-pop itself is actually influenced by, because you see a lot of hip hop, you see American pop. American culture influences K-pop in the very big way.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not even something that's solely even Korean. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of different sort of like perspective into that. That was interesting. But I thought those guys were definitely appreciating the culture, like cultural appreciation, which is sort of like the concept I was talking about. How, to differentiate between the two. I think, and I also thought it was interesting too, how in the United States, when they're asking the United States, people from the US, and we're just like, we don't want white people on our K-pop.
I'm like, what?
So, and then it also tells you that it depends, the lens that you're looking from, like, where you're from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That to me is the ultimate racism. I think it's okay to keep track of where something originated from, right? So you look at jazz, that originated from African Americans, and then other people commandeered it, but it originated from African Americans. Doesn't mean that there should be only African American jazz artists. Like, if you think that, and that's kind of a racist thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I understand where people are coming from with cultural appropriation, and of course you have to be sensitive. You have to be sensitive to other cultures. That's why, listen, man, I'll tell you, when I saw that whole thing, we've talked about it a million times with Logan Paul, and he went to Japan, that broke my heart, dude. As somebody who's been there a bunch of times, and I love the people there, to see someone be that openly disrespectful for my country, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, that is so sad. That's ridiculous, and that's where you have to like really draw the line and be that way. But this whole ownership thing of like, this person owns this and that person owns this, and so what if you're white, or if you're black, even what if you're black and your dream is to be a Korean start a Korean pop band?
And we've seen
you should
videos,
be able to do that.
And we've seen videos where
you should be able to do
some
that,
black
dude.
Guys will go to South Korea, perfect pronunciation, language, like everything, they know it, and like the South Koreans will be like, dude, you're amazing.
Yeah, you should be able to do
But then you have people over here to be like, this clown, what are you doing? It's like, what?
For me, it's about like what you do. So like Eminem, right? White rapper. White as can be too. It's not even like a mix. He's not like one of those white guys that looks
blatantly
like super white.
Unapologetically.
But he spits fire.
Fire.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do you do? MF Doom, he had an interview. You ever heard of the rapper MF Doom?
I've not.
And wears
This guy wears a mask.
He wears a mask, and they're
Looks like Dr. Doom.
Yeah, he's like a famous underground rapper, and he wears a mask. And in an interview, they said, "Why do you wear a mask? Like, is it just to look cool? Is it like a gimmick on stage?" And he goes, "I wear a mask." He goes, "Because I don't want people to focus on what I look like." He's like, "I want people to focus on what I'm saying." You just looked around like you got touched by a ghost.
No. Because when I was moving, I was like, I don't hear my. Sorry to distract.
No, that's cool.
I don't hear my keys, and I was like, did I lose them? But they're on the ground.
Cool, that's cool. But yeah, no. Basically, he just said like, I wear a mask because I don't want people to focus on what I look like.
Yeah.
He's like, I just want people to listen to my voice and hear what I'm saying, hear my raps, listen to my skill. Don't worry about what I look like. You know, I may be old, I may be fat, I may be whatever. Don't worry about what I look like. It's all about what I'm presenting. So like when I met you, man, like I judge you by like, what are you doing? I have a dream. I have a clothing line. I have a job. I have stuff that I'm trying to do. That's everything else doesn't matter to me, man. Like, and that's how it should be. It's like, what are you? Who are you as a person? And until we get to that point, man, all of this other stuff is meaningless.
It's getting there. I think it's definitely progressing because creativity in today's climate is a must. Right. Like you see a lot of do you watch YouTube a lot?
Not as much as I used to.
Not as much. You see a lot of YouTube creatives like backlashing at YouTube, saying like what is going on? Like, why are we not getting what we should be getting? Stuff like that. And then you see, you know, everyone's starting to get their different style. Like there is a lack. I think there is a lack of creativity in music. There is a formula right now, especially in rap music, that it works, and it's just thriving. Whereas like a couple years ago, you know, everyone was making something different. Like no one is wants to push the fold and like, you know, challenge the status quo. So I think it's getting there. It's just it definitely has to take time, and we need like people like the Kendrick Lamars, the J. Cole's, like people like that. Trendsetters, like people who will like, yeah, I'm gonna do art how I want to do it. If people like it, that's amazing. But it's like what I want to do. Yeah. And I said this before, is like I still love Drake, and I really used to love Drake, but like he's doing things blatantly that you can see where he's like hopping on a wave and like doing certain things because he knows it's gonna sell. And I am not a fan of people who are just looking for the sell. They want the money. I want to like Frank Ocean. Like when he puts out music, I'm just like, whoa, like he took his time. That was like 4 or 5 years I had to wait. It was worth it. Or even directors and stuff like that, you know. But yeah,
man. I don't know where we were going with this. It's 10:24. We should probably wrap this up, man. But unless you want to have anything else that you want to talk about before I give you time to obviously plug all your stuff.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing I would say, well, first, thank you guys for having me on this.
Of course. You're coming on again if you have time.
Yeah. Of course. This
Love
is
to have you on
the first podcast I've ever done in my life. But it's really just, I would encourage anybody who's really listening to this podcast to, as a brand, one of the things that we thrive on is really the feedback that we get from people, like how people, you know, view our products. What did you think of the artwork? Like, you know, what does it mean to you and things like that? That human aspect of it, we love to, you know, hear about, to sort of, you know, refine ourselves and make ourselves better as a brand. Because we want to do something different, you know, we want to connect with people. I think as a brand, we always tie the culture piece in because we want that human element. It's a culture. We want to include everybody into it. So, well, everybody who wants to be a part of it into it. So yeah, anybody who listens to this, like, you know, reach out to us, go visit our website, share your thoughts. And that includes, you know, both of you guys. You've already, you know, shared some really
I'm definitely buying apparel.
Love your stuff, man.
Yeah,
it's no secret. It's awesome.
Yeah,
seriously.
Thank you guys.
So just plug your website, your Instagram, your Twitter, anything that you want people to find you by right now, and
awesome.
You know.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at BUKTU. That's BUKTUCO. That's BUKTUCO, and then on the website at BUKTU.co.
Cool.
Awesome. Where we are.
check them out. They have amazing clothes with amazing ideas behind it, and that's what makes it so incredible.
And a great story and great people.
Exactly, man. That's what it's all about, is helping other creative people. So seriously, check them out. They're awesome. I'm definitely going to buy some more stuff from them. And Chris, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been episode 39. I got it right this time.
Let's say.
Yeah, of Andrewcast. See you next time.
Peace.
Yo, yo, yo. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Andrewcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your attention. Before we get into the content of today's episode, I definitely want to get into our sponsor that I've been so graciously gifted, Roast House Coffee, located in South Texas. Now, you may be saying, Andrew, I'm not a coffee person. You know, I like tea. I like drinking tea and honey and throw a little bit of milk in there. You know, I'm trying to live my life. Look, I understand you're trying to live your life, okay? I understand you may not be a coffee person. I wasn't either until I got me some Roast House coffee. Now, Roast House was gracious enough to send me Liquid Thunder. Liquid Thunder is a fan favorite in-house blend made by the Roast Coffee House. It combines the bold, smooth taste of dark roasted Colombian coffee beans with a subtle hint of chocolate to top it off. You can't beat it, bro. Let me tell you a little bit more about Roast House. The Roast House is not your ordinary coffee shop. They roast freshly imported coffee beans from all around the world, in-house daily. Located in Brownsville, home of the brave, putting work in the street like a slave, Texas. Our mission is to bring the taste of the world into South Texas, one bean at a time. From popular flavors to in-house blends, we serve all natural, preservative-free coffee, espressos, teas, and other beverages. Homie, come on into our shop and enjoy a fresh cup of joe, or take some bean grounds home for your loved ones. So come get a fresh cup of joe, or come take some beans to go. You heard it here first. Take some grounds home for your loved ones to enjoy. And for those not living in South Texas, don't fret. Don't even worry about it. We will be launching an online store soon for coffee lovers across the world. You too will be able to taste coffee done right. Listen, folks, if you want some coffee, you want some high-grade stuff, you don't want to mess around with the Starbucks, right? You don't want to mess around with the Dunkin' Donuts. You don't want to mess around with the Wawa. You don't want to mess around with the McDonald's coffee, all right? You want to go straight to the house, the Roast House. Baby, Roast House Coffee. Look it up online. Look it up on Instagram. It's the newest. It's the latest. Thank you so much for sponsoring my podcast. Everyone enjoy today's episode. Love you.